they call Fiji paradise. A postcard of untouched beauty, whispered dreams of escape. But for an entire community, this paradise became a battleground for their very existence. This is the story of Fiji's forgotten Hindus. After slavery was abolished, the British turned to India for cheap labor. Between 1879 and 1916, over 60,000 Indians were brought to Fiji under the indenture system. Most were from Uttar Pradesh and Bihar. They carried the Ramayana in their hearts, Bhojpuri in their tongues, and their deities in their pockets. These Hindus built temples out of nothing. They tilled the sugarcane fields under brutal conditions and preserved their Dharma through bhajans, through fasting, and through their tight-knit community rituals. By the 1940s, Indo-Fijians outnumbered native Fijians in the population, but not in power. They were still viewed as temporary guests, as outsiders, even after generations had taken root. The British colonial policy in Fiji didn't just reinforce racial divisions, it actually engineered them. Native Fijians were granted communal ownership over vast tracts of land, enshrined by law ensuring they retained control over the island's natural resources. Indo-Fijians, on the other hand, well, they were barred from owning land outright. Instead, they were forced into short-term leases, often under exploitative terms, making it impossible to establish lasting economic security. Politically, they were sidelined. They were denied proportional representation despite their numbers. This colonial blueprint of racial hierarchy sowed the seeds of distrust and competition between these communities. This ensured that long after the British left, the wounds of division would remain. Even after independence in 1970, these divisions stayed. Indo-Fijians excelled in education, business, and civil service, but that only deepened the resentment. A Hindu success story was being painted as a threat, and that threat, some claimed, had to be neutralized. In April 1987, Fiji made history by electing its first multi-ethnic government led by Dr. Timothy Bavadra. Though Bavadra was indigenous Fijian, his government received overwhelming support from Indo-Fijians who finally saw a chance for representation after decades of political exclusion. But on May 14th, just 1 month later, Lieutenant Colonel Sitiveni Rabuka led a military coup, claiming to defend indigenous rights and prevent the supposed Indian takeover. In truth, though, it was a power grab, steeped in ethno-nationalist fear. In the wake of the coup, the Indo-Fijian community, many of them Hindu, were vilified as threats to national identity. The newly imposed 1990 Constitution codified this discrimination. It guaranteed political dominance to indigenous Fijians and marginalized Indo-Fijians from holding high office. Temples were desecrated. Hindu-owned businesses ransacked. Families who had lived in Fiji for generations were suddenly made to feel like intruders. In September 1987, a second coup further entrenched the military's control and drove waves of Indo-Fijians into exile. Then in May 2000, another coup erupted, this time targeting the Indo-Fijian Prime Minister Mahendra Chaudhry, who had become the first of Indian descent to lead Fiji. The rebels stormed the parliament and held Chaudhry hostage for 56 days. Each of these events, 1987 again, and 2000, deepened the trauma. Each coup drove thousands of more Indo-Fijians to leave, seeking safety in Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and beyond. Their only crime? Being born of Indian blood.
I try to get answers from my Aji, and she's like, I don't want to talk about it. It's really heartbreaking to speak about something that hurts so bad. It takes a lot of courage. And she's still, she's old and she still hasn't found that courage to do so because it was so traumatic. My mom actually told me stories about it. Women weren't safe, especially little girls, because they would get raped and assaulted and taken away. They would have to go out in the jungle and stay quiet, and they'd have all the older brothers and uncles and fathers surround them to make sure nothing happened. Every Sunday, you had to be quiet, like absolutely quiet. There would be tanks coming in and like trucks and stuff like that, going by the villages, making sure that not even dog barks, otherwise they would pull you out of the house.
If this story matters to you, please like this video. It tells YouTube that stories like ours are worth sharing, and it helps us reach more people who need to hear the truth. Imagine being told you don't belong on the land your family worked for generations. That's what many Indo-Fijians faced. Many temples were burned or defaced during the coups. Hindu holidays became politicized. Public funding for Hindu festivals came under scrutiny, and celebrations were sometimes seen as symbols of political loyalty. This made it difficult for Indo-Fijian Hindus to practice their faith without fear or judgment. The 1997 constitution gave some rights back, but by then over 100,000 Indo-Fijians had left. That's nearly half the community gone in one generation.
We're proud Fijians, but we can't, I always tell my mom this, we can't just remove the bad experiences. We have to talk about it because, you know, in the future, people are going to be asking questions. I made sure that I kept that story locked in my head for our children in the future, and then their children could tell, you know.
Today, the Indo-Fijian Hindu community exists across the world in the diaspora. They're in Canada, the US, Australia, and they rebuilt their temples, their communities, and their lives. Some still speak Fiji Hindi. It was born out of survival.
I actually spoke Fiji Hindi before I spoke English. My brother actually had some trouble speaking it. He had to actually learn Fiji Hindi while he's growing. With me, it kind of just came naturally because my mom would speak to me all the time, and my Aji can't speak English, my Aja can't speak English, and I would talk to them so very often. I think it was because I was closer to my grandparents than my brother. My dad's side is Girmitiya, and my mom's side is Indo-Fijian. So it's just like, it's crazy. It's just really crazy. I don't even know how it still got preserved. Honestly, I have no idea, but it's amazing. We're from the same place, but because of where we all got separated, right, the language kind of got lost. I know in Suriname, they speak the same, like just like us. Like, literally, I can understand them perfectly because it's the exact same. We literally speak the same language.
Some continue the traditions, but the trauma of that exile is passed down silently. It shows up in the whispers, in the stories, in the hesitation to visit Fiji again. But those same whispers are now being recorded, is being shared, and is being taught. Parents are using these stories to teach their kids what dignity looks like in the face of displacement. Youth are finding pride in ancestors who refuse to let Dharma die, even in exile. So to my brothers and sisters in India, know this. Our roots are still in Bharat, but they grew in distant soil, and still, we share the same Dharma.
I moved out at a very young age. I was going through a lot of battles myself. I was always questioning things when I was younger, and I never got an answer at all. I'd ask my mom, why do we do this? What's the point of this? And the answers were just like, oh, because we just do it. And that did not make sense to me. I don't believe in blindly following anything. I went to a lot of mandirs, talked to a lot of pandits as well, and gurus. And I started to talk to a pandit. And so when he started telling me basically what he can read off of my chart, I was amazed, absolutely amazed. I'm like, wow. And it's been right on. Ever since I connected closer to Hinduism and Dharma, I just totally 180. It helped me become a better person. At the time, I wasn't the best version of myself, and now I am teaching my mom these things. I teach my Aji. My family comes to me and they're like, what's this? Why do we do this? And I'm like, I might as well just be a pandit. Like, you know?
For those that know me know that I'm not Fijian, but I am a descendant of Indenture. I see my reflection in their story. And what happened in Fiji is a warning. When we stay silent about our history, others write it for us. When we fail to protect our temples, our languages, our truth, others erase it. This is more than a history lesson. It's a reminder. Whether in Fiji, Trinidad, Guyana, or South Africa, our ancestors didn't suffer just so that we could forget. We are the living legacy of their endurance. So to all Hindus, whether born in India or raised in the diaspora, our Dharma survives because we choose not to let it die. We owe it to our past and our future to keep telling these stories.
I do believe that Hindus have a very open mind. And the open-minded Hindus, I feel like, are so much easier to get along with, and they understand the values. Those are the true values. Don't be sorry for your own belief. Be unapologetically proud of where you're from.
Because to be Hindu is not just to remember, it's to build, and it is to rebuild. If you found this video meaningful, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Drop a comment if you're part of the Indo-Fijian story, or if your family has roots in indenture. Because when we speak, we heal, and when we remember, we reclaim. And if you believe these stories deserve a global stage, please consider supporting my work. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.